So the first debate is going to be Kasparian versus Debra Lea. And before we get started, I do want to say Debra Lea has been revealed to be a feminist, just like Anna Kasparian is also a feminist. But I do respect Anna being a feminist a little bit more because she comes right out and tells you. You know what you're getting with her. You know the arguments are coming from a feminist perspective. Debra Lea tries to sneak it past you pretending to be a trad wife, but she's a feminist too. And you can go watch my video in the archives where Andrew Wilson exposed her on the Whatever podcast as a full-on feminist. So just wanted that out there. One is a feminist and one is pretending not to be a feminist, but let's get into it.
On my panel, Curtis Sliwa, who's the Guardian Angels founder and former Republican candidate for mayor of New York, Geraldo Rivera, the correspondent at large of News Nation, Adam Mockler, political commentator and Midas Touch contributor, and Anna Kasparian, host and executive producer of The Young Turks. Geraldo, let me start with you. You've always struck me as a reasonable voice in America, in a cacophony of mayhem. This war in Iran, from where I'm looking, and I raised these concerns after day one, and nothing has shaken my belief. It looks to me like Donald Trump has got into something which has turned out to be a lot more difficult than he thought it would be, perhaps because the Israelis had assured him it would be easier than this. And that now he's in a position where if he carries on, it's politically disastrous, economically disastrous. And if he gets out, he'll have the accusation that it's all been a waste of time and a failure. You know Trump extremely well. You've known him longer than I have. What would you be advising him right now?
I think, Piers, nice to see you. I think that, first of all, now that there are dueling blockades, now that we are blockading Iran and their commerce, and they are, of course, blockading the world's oil supply, 20% of the world's oil supply. You have this. I think that the blockade by the United States of Iran and its commerce.
All we need now is China or Russia to come behind the U.S. and blockade that blockade. Then we'll have a blockade blockading a blockade. Wouldn't that be cool?
Was a brilliant move and a losing hand. I think that the war has gone not the way anyone in the United States side wanted it to. It's been bloodier, more prolonged, seemingly more pointless, has no end in sight. But now that you have this situation in the Strait, in the Persian Gulf generally, I think that the blockade, the American blockade of Iran, is more impactful than the Iranian blockade, even though they are stopping the world's oil supply. I think what has to happen is what appears to be happening now with this Project Freedom, using as an excuse the humanitarian needs of the crews of all the vessels that have been stranded because of the Iranian blockade, using the fact they've been on these vessels now for many weeks with no end in sight. I think that the United States Navy has to be aggressive. And let's see. Iran says it has the Straits of Hormuz closed with its drones and its small craft and et cetera. Let's test that. I think that once more into the breach. I think that the United States has to try and see whether or not Iran has the capacity to close the Strait. I believe that a kinetic response to any actions against any neutral ship.
So Geraldo still doesn't know that they can blockade, that they have effectively closed the Strait of Hormuz. It's been closed for weeks now. Geraldo still hasn't realized that they have the power to do that.
Yeah, has to happen, has to be dramatic, has to be overwhelming, has to be soon, or we leave with our tail between our legs. Piers.
Okay, I meant to mention earlier, forgive me, Debra Lea, Conservative Minister, is also joining us. Deborah, nice to see you. Sorry, the eagle-eyed viewers would have seen 5 faces pop up and thought, who's the other one? So it's Deborah, welcome back. Anna Kasparian, welcome back to you. I want to play a clip from John Bolton, which is kind of summing up what a lot of people on his side of the argument are feeling right now. Let's take a look at this.
Okay, Ambassador, Who is going to blink first here? How does this finish?
Well, it's anybody's guess at this point. I think the United States holds a great advantage here, but it hasn't finished the job that was started. My definition of finishing the job is ousting the regime in Tehran, but there are steps less than that that Trump could take, and I'm a little surprised that he hasn't done it. For example, if he were to use military force to open the Strait of Hormuz, which does not involve going back to the kinds of attacks we saw 3 or 4 weeks ago. If he could do that, but keep the blockade on Iranian oil shipments, that would continue to put a huge financial squeeze on Iran, but would get a lot of much-needed oil out of the Gulf and into international markets. I think that is certainly something he can do to up the pressure, keep things moving, and avoid having to make some of the choices he clearly doesn't want to make and shouldn't have to make.
I mean, Anna, this comes with the backdrop, as I discussed with Megyn Kelly, where, you've got the Israelis itching to get back into fighting in Iran. They're making no secret of that. Already a lot of stuff going on again in Lebanon. There are conflicting agendas at play here. Trump getting a lot of pressure from all sides. A lot of people wanting to end this right now. Over 60% of Americans are not supportive of this war in Iran. Unprecedented negative numbers for a military conflict like this. What do you make of where we are, and what do you think is going to happen here?
Well, I think that the only way to secure the opening of the Strait of Hormuz, so you have transit of incredibly important cargo, including energy supply that the globe needs, is to do so diplomatically. If there were a military option to do so, I believe that military option would have been used already, but we don't have that military option. Just to give you a comparison, when the United States was at the height of the war in Iraq, we had about 250,000 soldiers dedicated to that war. Right now we have 10 to 15,000 military personnel. We're not even talking about the entire, number of troops being in combat or even able to engage in combat in the Middle East right now as we speak. So the point that I'm trying to make is there is no military option. When you look at the military weaponry we have, when you look at our THAAD missile interceptor system and the fact that we've depleted 80% of our missile interceptors, that puts our troops at a significant disadvantage. And I'm not the one saying this. The Wall Street Journal reported very specific details about how much of our weaponry and interceptors have been depleted already. And we do not have the manufacturing capacity to build quick enough in order to basically withstand the very cheap drones that Iran is able to quickly produce. So the point that I'm trying to make here, Piers, is that you have to reach an agreement diplomatically, and leaders lead, meaning that President Donald Trump has the leverage, has the power to force this in a diplomatic fashion. He just needs to basically push Israel aside and actually be a leader, not have Israel, dictate our foreign policy.
Can't push the boss aside, though. Whenever they're in charge of all this, how do you push them aside? Like, they're making the calls here, not us.
Curtis Sliwa, welcome to you to Uncensored. You're a former Republican candidate for mayor of New York, and I should just say at this point, my thoughts go out to Rudy Giuliani, former mayor of New York, and to his family. He's in critical condition in hospital, which was very sad news in the last few days. And I interviewed him actually on Uncensored only 2 weeks ago. So my best wishes to him and his family, and I hope he comes through that. But in terms of this war, a lot of Republicans I've been talking to are now having serious doubts about this. But the longer it goes on, we were assured it was going to be over in 2 to 3 weeks, then 6 weeks. And now here we are over 2 months into this with no sign.
The same way Iraq started. Keep that in mind. Same exact way Iraq started. It's going to be a 2-week engagement. 20 years.
Of it coming to any end anytime soon. And the obvious economic damage it's causing with gas prices and with inevitably food prices because of the loss of fertilizer that's being held up and so on. What do you make of it? Are you still supportive of this war? Do you think, as John Bolton does, that now you're in it, you've got to finish it and maybe trying to affect regime?
If I'm not mistaken, his first act he said he was going to take if he won the mayorship of New York was go to visit Israel. So beware of what he's about to tell you.
Regime change as well?
Well, Piers, I'm happy that you played John Bolton, who was the national security advisor for Trump in his first 4 years. Because remember, it was Bolton who barged into the president's office and said, Mr. President, you have to launch the Air Force because the Iranians just shot down a very expensive drone over the Straits of Hormuz. And the President Trump said, it's unmanned, right? Where's the proportionality? And Bolton wanted us to just bomb Iran. He's a war hawk. That's why I'm shocked that President Trump, who kept us out of these ongoing foreign disputes, did not get us involved, has suddenly flipped the script. And now he's war hawk number one. And we all know why. He's been pushed into this. Bibi, an excellent salesman, convinced him that if you come in with us, there will be regime change. There will be insurrection in the streets, even though our CIA and Marco Rubio told the president the next day after that meeting, that's not going to happen. And we see that Trump got bamboozled by Bibi. This is Bibi's war. We should not be involved in this.
Debra Lea, are you supportive still of this war?
Well, first off, this is obviously not Bibi's war. Let's not throw Trump. Trump is a sovereign leader of the United States of America. He's our president. All of his decisions are his own. There's nobody who can bully him into a war. Every decision he makes, even the bad ones, are because...
Can you blackmail him into one? TPUSA Zionist?
He solely wanted to do them. As far as this war, as somebody who has wanted to see the end of the Iranian regime or the Islamic Iranian regime for a very long time, since childhood, growing up around Jews who fled from Iran very young, I'm kind of surprised that the war is still going on at this point. And as far as...
I take objection to it saying conservative influencer down there. She's not conservative. She's a feminist.
As Anna said earlier, diplomatically, ideally, this would be a diplomatic exit. But a big challenge that we've seen, I can't attest to the exact numbers, but they prepared for this exact situation. There are factions split across...
They prepared so much, they ran out of bombs, and now they've got to wait a while to make more. Yeah, that's well thought out.
Across the entire country. So even if the United States were to make a deal with somebody in Tehran, there could be a separate faction up in the north or in the south or somewhere that would challenge a diplomatic exit that would really create safety for the entire region. So
you notice how they just say things, they just assert things, and they have no backing for it. Yes, this is a well thought out war. How do you account for them running out of bombs? They have no answer for these things. It's a well thought out war. We're in a worse spot now than when we started. Now they control the Gulf of Hormuz, which they didn't control before. So was it well thought out, considering everybody knew they would do that and the president just thought they couldn't for some reason? How is it well thought out? Back that up.
At this point, I never thought that they were actually going to go after the Ayatollah. That was shocking for me. I didn't think that the United States of America would really take that chance.
She was shocked that they would go after the leader of a regime in a regime change war. Shocking.
Not knowing that we can guarantee regime change. Would I love regime change? Absolutely. Do I see a clear off-ramp for this war? Absolutely not. But we cannot just surrender to Iran because simply with flights, I'm flying to Israel in a few weeks. If we tell Iran that at any point they launch ballistic missiles, they can shut down airfare for the entire Middle East, can take complete control of the Strait of Hormuz. That is a dangerous position to leave them in. So I think we're at a really unfortunate time, but that's why I trust the leadership that I voted for in this administration. I trust them to get out of this in the best way possible. And at the very least, if we do get out without no more additional changes, it was avenging the close to 1,000 Americans who've been murdered by the Islamic regime over the last 47 years. So it wouldn't be a total.
Where were they murdered at? Were they murdered in America? Did they bomb America and blow up those Americans? Or were those Americans in Iran or around Iran? That's their problem. Don't go there and you won't have to deal with that.
Loss.
But, you know, when you say you trust this administration, okay, but you voted for them, and Donald Trump couldn't have been clearer when he campaigned to be president in 2024. He was not going to take America into any more of these Middle Eastern wars. And then within a year or so, he's gone into the biggest one imaginable. And we've all seen the consequences.
Well, President Trump has also been very clear that he will not allow Iran to get a nuclear weapon. And Iran is committed to a nuclear weapon. I know we destroyed a lot of their weapons.
Back that up with anything you didn't get from Israel. Please, I'll wait for it. Any information you can provide that wasn't provided to us by Israel, I'll accept it. Go, let's hear it.
Last June, that was miraculous. But at the same time, they're not going to stop building. They're not going to stop enriching uranium. We saw this with the Obama-Iran nuclear deal, which is...
Not now that we killed the guy that had a fatwa against it. Yeah, now they might do it. Tell us again how it was thought out. This is a well thought out war. Killing the one guy, stopping them from getting nuclear weapons. Doesn't seem very well thought out.
Horrible. They are committed to building nuclear weapons and trying to destroy the western part of this world with everything that they got, they will divert every resource to try and destroy Western civilization. And so I'm not surprised that we need to keep our, for lack of a better word, our knee on their necks to make sure that they are not trying to destroy the world that we know and love.
Yeah.
So they were just sitting there for 47 years, 57 years, plotting against America and doing nothing, So we had to go and start a war with them because they were thinking it. And we know they were thinking it because Israel told us so.
I'm just not quite sure whose knee is on whose neck at the moment, because it looks to me like, as I've been saying regularly, there's an asymmetric war going on. One is the military conflict, which America and Israel have overwhelming superiority. And I don't doubt for a moment they've caused enormous damage to Iran's military. But there's also the economic war being waged around this Strait of Hormuz, which has enormous global consequences, as we're seeing. And at the moment, that strait remains shut, despite all the protestation and late night rage tweets from the president. There seems to be very little he can do to get it open again. Let me bring in Adam.
Try sending another tweet. I'm sure that'll get it open.
Mocker, welcome to Uncensored, Adam. You've obviously hit the headlines in the last few days. For those who haven't seen it, I think it's up there with my Russell Brand clip as the two most memed and republished clips of the week. So let's take a look at your one. This is you with Scott Jennings at CNN.
I mean, honestly, they have been at war with us for 47
We
years.
all know that Scott Jennings is more than happy to defend a war with a country that starts with the letters IRA that we are currently failing, that is going to put us trillions and trillions of dollars more in debt. I was only a few years old while you were in the administration defending prior endless wars. Now this war is failing.
8 weeks is endless to you?
Okay, you said it was going to be 4 to 6 weeks.
You have the attention span of a gnat?
Homie, I debated you on TV 4 to 6 weeks ago, and you said we were weeks away from it. Now you're making condescending remarks because you can't defend the fact that this war is not going your way. Wait, one more time.
Not going your way.
One political concession.
Name one political concession.
Hey, whoa. Honestly, I'm not going to have everybody hang tight.
Honestly.
Okay. No, everybody calm down.
I wish that young guy would
okay?
whoop the shit out of him.
Now, as somebody who was repeatedly actually manhandled by Russell Brand, I think your manhandling was at least a little bit removed. There was daylight between your arms and Scott Jennings. But what was
unfortunately
interesting about the exchange to me was not that he was not entitled to get annoyed with the way you were gesticulating. I probably would have done too. But I've not seen him that rattled. Scott Jennings is normally ice cool on that panel show. I watch it a lot. I think he's a really interesting commentator for the right on CNN. It's an unusual beast. They don't have many of them. And he holds his own often against 3 or 4 people. And on this occasion, Geraldo was also...
He's another bought and paid Zionist.
On the panel, I noted. And we'll come to Geraldo for his view of it in a minute. But I haven't seen Scott Jennings react like that to anybody. And that, to me, in the same way that I'm seeing with Donald Trump's slightly erratic and, quite angry and testy social media activity in the last few weeks, it just looks to me like people that have gone all in on this war in Iran, now it's not playing out in any way that they predicted or told everybody that it was going to play out. They're getting testy. They're getting quite angry about it, which is a natural human reaction, but is increasingly obvious. And I thought your exchange with Scott was indicative of that. What did you think?
I don't want to take away from the point that I was making in the question that I was asking in that moment, because I have sat on panel after panel after panel with Scott Jennings as he lies about this war, not bound by any facts whatsoever, as he makes failed predictions, not bound by any timelines whatsoever, and as he condescends and trolls and provokes everyone else on the panel. I mean, even in the same panel, he made fun of my bedtime like 5 minutes earlier. So this is a man that's not bound by any facts or timelines or rules. So I said, I'm not going to be bound by rules that my opponent is not playing it. So you can say that I was gesticulating a bit too much. That's a fair criticism, but he could have politely asked me to tone it down. That is not what he did. He snapped because he realized he does not have an answer to the simple question, name one political concession we've gotten from Iran 60 days into this war. We've had moving, shifting timelines, shifting objectives for this war. They've been lowering the threshold for what victory is considered as. And just because I asked the question of, hey, what concessions have we gotten, that pisses him off. We've seen billions of dollars spent. We saw dozens of people, thousands of people in Iran have died, tens of thousands, but we saw over a dozen US soldiers die. So I'm going to continue to ask this very same question. What political concessions have we gotten from Iran 60 days into this war? The answer is absolutely none, and he knows the answer is none. That's why he freaked out.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect...
And don't apologize.
No,
Don't apologize for your
I don't think you shouldn't be
gesturing.
apologising. No, I mean,
Yeah.
Let me bring Geraldo in firstly, because Geraldo, you were on the panel. I want to play your reaction on News Nation to what you saw on that panel.
The kid was a dick. I mean, he really smart, eloquent, had his argument together, had obviously.
So he's supposed to be nice while Scott Jennings is calling him a child and insulting his bedtime. Get the fuck out of here. He wasn't being a dick. He was being provoked into being a little bit aggressive back. That's not being a dick. I can show you what being a dick is.
They debated Scott before, and he was really being a dick. I mean, it was shut up, go out and get some life experience.
How many different?
I wasn't sure if you were talking about
Disagree.
Chris Cuomo there, actually, Geraldo.
I love it when nerds act tough. What are you going to do, Scott Jennings? Are you going to take your tie off, you pussy?
Clarify, you were talking actually about Adam Mockler. Now,
You still think so?
well, Adam, I mean, what do you want to say to Geraldo? He called you a dick. Do you have a response?
Yeah, it's not a.
I would just say, who the fuck is that? Who is he? I don't even know who he is. Except he had tried to open a safe in the 80s, I think, and it was a flop. That's what he's known for. Fucking failed like extravaganzas. Yay.
Dick to try to force a critical question and try to force the conversation to where the American people want it. Geraldo, you were there when Scott made fun of my bedtime 5 minutes earlier. Again, this is somebody not bound by any rules whatsoever on this show. He's able to lie over and over. Why should I be bound by some decorum that my opponents aren't bound by? Do you see what I'm saying? It's not the 80s anymore. It's not even 2010 anymore. We are in a new era where we are playing in a reciprocal manner. So I'm not playing the games where I have to be nice. And regarding life experience, really quickly, you have a whole life of experience and you're on the same panels as me. We're on the same shows. We had a show last week. We have a show today. So life experience, what has it gotten you? I don't know.
All right, Geraldo, your life experience has got you nowhere, says the young dick.
Well, it's got me a career that's lasted 56 years so far and counting. And
yeah, and you're on the decline while he's ascending. Yep, that's what's happening.
Aside from 10 Emmys and a few other trinkets.
Now you're on the same panels
Adam, listen, don't be a wise ass, okay? I said to you in the commercial break that immediately followed your...
Again, or what, Geraldo?
Your confrontation with Scott, that I thought that you made some good points. The problem is that you can be very obnoxious in your presentation. Now, sometimes being obnoxious can lead to a whole career, but I advise you strongly because you're a smart kid and you obviously prepared.
Wasn't Geraldo Rivera Jerry Springer before Jerry Springer? That's how I remembered him, like the failed version of Jerry Springer before Jerry Springer. Like that's what he's known for.
For the debate. Stick to that. Stick to the substance, because I think that you do have a future. In terms of Scott Jennings, I like Scott very much. I didn't know him before this CNN experience. It was fun talking to him in the green room before the show, and then see the confrontation, this spontaneous combustion. I was surprised. I was surprised by the fact that Scott reacted as he did. But then, just listening to Adam, he can be very grating. And,
like Geraldo's not. He's grating on me right now.
Sometimes that works. I remember Morton Downey and a bunch of others from daytime TV and so forth. But
that was his competition. Morton Downey Jr. was also Jerry Springer before Jerry Springer. That was the competition. They were the big competition before Jerry Springer had to fight Ricky Lake. That's what he's known for.
Strongly advise you to stick to the substance, because you can, as I indicated in the commercial break following the confrontation, you can be a voice for a generation that has so far been unable to penetrate into the mainstream media. That's my opinion.
This is so indicative of the double standards that we see all throughout the media. I mean, you went on that whole rant, but you didn't mention that Scott Jennings made fun of my bedtime or whatever. Not that I care, but he's the one who has an obnoxious air.
What did you say about your bedtime? I missed that.
Yeah, but young fella, it's only obnoxious whenever you do it to the people they like. Like if they're doing it to you, that's not obnoxious. They don't even notice it.
So I asked him a question 5 minutes before. I said, hey, what concession has Iran gotten? And he says, aren't you a little bit up past your bedtime or something? He started with the condescending jabs.
To be fair, Adam, you are literally beaming into the show from your bedroom.
It's a hotel room. I'm currently at a hotel room. But, I mean, either way.
It's not the best way to refute the suggestion that it's past your bedtime.
What are you talking about? I'm in a hotel room in New York because I have CNN again tonight.
Adam, it's a joke. You're reacting You're reacting a bit like Scott did the other day. So take a chill pill. You happen to have a bed behind you as you're refuting the charge that is past your bedtime. I'm just making a joke.
It's a good joke. One final thing. I'm 23. Maybe my youthful arrogance will drop with time, but there's no excuse for Scott Jennings to be on air all the time, making remarks at everybody else. And then the moment somebody gives it back, he can dish it, but he can't take it. The moment somebody tries to force the question, what political concession have we gotten from Iran? He gets worked up. So yeah.
Well, okay. I don't know Scott Jennings at all. I never met him. I think he's a very effective communicator on a network, CNN, that when I was there was very, very, very cautious about revealing any kind of partisan bias, but now has a panel show where quite often on that show they have 4 on one side and Scott Jennings. So I actually feel like he puts up a pretty good fight, given he's often heavily outnumbered. But Anna, on a sort of slightly wider point here, it's very interesting to me. I just interviewed Megyn Kelly for 20 minutes at the start of this show. And I could have been talking to you about some of these issues, right? Same with Tucker Carlson. A lot of you have blended now into a weird family of people who have a lot of agreement about a lot of things. Iran, the influence of Israel, Donald Trump and his mistake, as you see it, and so on. Did you think a time would come when you would be siding rhetorically on these big, big issues with so many who are on the conservative right? And what does that tell you about the state of the conservative right when you've got people like Mark Levin saying Tucker's mentally...
It tells you that some of us see that Israel is a bigger issue. You have to align with your enemies when you have a bigger enemy. That's all it says.
Everyone trashing Candace Owens and her trashing everybody else. There is a real split going on the conservative right. And there's you firmly on the left as you've always been, but now siding rhetorically, to me, it seems, on these big issues with people that would historically have been the complete opposite to you.
I'm going to get back to your question in just one second, but I have to say the debate about tone is the exact type of distraction that Zionists are hoping for, so you don't actually debate the substance. Mockler, your tone was fine. Your hand was nowhere near his face. You have no reason to apologize. The reason why they're attacking your tone is because they can't attack your substance. Now, moving...
Debra Lea, right beside of her, is a tone policer, too. She likes to make sure that you say things in a way that everybody will... everybody doesn't get their fifis hurt. That's what her argument was with Andrew Wilson in the debate I did, where she was revealed as a feminist.
On to Pierce's question.
Somehow blame Zionists for that? That's mental illness, but okay.
Yeah, okay, right. You're calling me mentally ill? Do you want to go there? What
does blaming Zionists have to do with...
I'm not talking to you. I'm going to answer Pierce's question calmly and not let you bait me, because that's what you guys do.
I hope you can.
Pierce, to answer your question...
Better than you can.
I think that right now it's not really a question of left versus right on this issue. It's a question of good versus evil, America first versus a foreign country first. And right now, this war is something that, as Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, has said repeatedly, has been a dream of his for decades. And he finally got his dream to the detriment of the American people, since we're the ones paying for this war. We're the ones who lost 13 soldiers as a result of this war, and we shouldn't be fighting it. And so I think Tucker, I think Megyn Kelly, I think people like me and Cenk, regardless of our political views overall, look at this war, look at the undue influence of Israel over our government and foreign policy, and we have a problem with that. We are America first. We have some very real problems here within our own borders that are not being addressed at all, even though President Trump alleged that he was going to address those issues. And in fact, the very issues that people voted for him on, including doing something about affordability, he has only made worse by agreeing to enter this war. So I think that's what's going on, why there's a little bit of agreement when it comes to big picture issues, like whether or not our leadership is America first, whether or not our foreign policy is serving us, and whether or not we really want to continue this alliance with a country that has only sucked our resources and forced us into wars that we shouldn't be fighting.
Okay, Debra Lea, what was the point you were trying to make?
At the beginning, she referenced that this is Zionist distraction to talk about tone, and I was just pointing out that to blame Zionists for pointing out the tone when this was a very viral interaction between Adam and Scott, a lot of people had a lot of opinions. That's the kind of mental illness that we ascribe to anti-Semitism, where it rots your brain and you start seeing these connections where they come from nowhere. And something very...
Is talking about Zionists anti-Semitic? I thought that was reserved for if you're talking about Jewish people. Like Zionism is different from Jewish people. You can still like Jewish people and say you don't want Israel to run our country. This bitch is crazy.
Worth mentioning is somebody who's very passionate about making sure that Republicans win in this country for the midterms. If we stop this war tomorrow, that would really not move the needle for the Republican Party in terms of the midterms. And the biggest reason is because we have these rogue liberal.
That's the only thing that may save it for the Republicans. If they end this war right now and maybe start attacking Israel, I think you could get people back on board. That's the only thing that's going to save it for Republicans at midterms.
Activist judges who consistently overturn every single win from the Trump administration. And so until we rein back these activist judges in our country and assure that we can actually have the long-lasting wins that we voted for lasting in this country, that is the biggest challenge for the midterms. Americans are not feeling the wins from the administration.
I don't think
because
that's going to be the problem. I think the problem for the midterms is going to be if this war drags on with all the economic havoc it's causing, then what's going to happen is that regular Americans are going to look at two promises Donald Trump made, not to drag America into pointless, expensive Middle Eastern wars, and to focus on America first and getting the cost of living down. And if neither of those things have been achieved, in fact, the complete opposite has happened, then I suspect the Republicans are in for an absolute shellacking in November. Now, there's still time to rectify this, but every week that goes by with this war is another week which is longer than we were told this was all going to last. And I'm looking at the prices of gas prices, the inevitable surge in food prices that's going to come because of the fertilizer issue and so on. It's all bad news for Trump. His approval rating is at a record low. He should just get out of this thing. I just want to come to you, Curtis, if I may, about something completely different, because there was another big event last week where my king and queen came to your great country. And you said this.
Oh, total agreement with him. Because I was in India. This was about 15 years ago, and I met with historians there. They stole all the artifacts, not just of India, all over the world. They refused to give it back. So they have the king and the queen, you know, the royalty. They're a bunch of deadbeats, slackers, the worst welfare cheats in the world. So the countries ask, you know, could we have our artifacts back? And they say no. Meantime, India, they had 2 million volunteers join the King's Army in World War II to defend the crown. 100,000 casualties, many more injured. I think the least that the royal family, the royal stiffs, could do is not stiff the Indian people, but they do it, and they don't think twice about it. And they should have met with the Epstein victims.
So a stinging attack on my monarch and his wife there. This is about the Koh-i-Noor diamond, which is an ongoing argument and dispute. It dates back several hundred years, and I'm not going to get into that particular argument. But when you call King Charles a slacker, Curtis, I just wanted to point something out to you. King Charles is 77. I believe you're a very robust 72. So he's 5 years older than you. He was diagnosed with cancer in February 2024 and is still having regular treatment for this cancer. And yet in 2025, he conducted 390 solo engagements and 488 solo and joint engagements. Slacker? Really? My king? A slacker? He's the hardest working cancer patient in the world.
Let me get the small violin out. I had stage 4 prostate cancer. I was shot 5 times with hollow point bullets on the orders of the Gaudis to the Gambinos. I'm out there every day. The difference is when your king and your queen came to lay the flowers at the memorial at 9/11, which was good, not only for all the Americans lost, 3,000, but the 69 Brits. Just a block away is the memorial to the Irish famine, where your royalty was responsible for the killing of 1 million Irish. Up the rebels, Easter Rising, John Connolly. Your Queen Victoria did this, and your royalty never apologized for the death of 1 million Irish. You have a lot. Your royalty has a lot to apologize for.
All right, I love this guy. I changed my mind. I don't know what that was. Somebody told me that he didn't. He said he was going to visit Israel. Like they said, all the candidates that were running against Mandam, he said they would run to Israel as soon as they get elected. I didn't see him say that. So I'm going to go watch that back and see if I can see him say that. If he didn't say that, I'm a new fan.
And do your leaders have a blameless record going back 250 years, Curtis? Or should I start slinging my arrows back your way for some of the transgressions of the past?
No, you can. You can. because I don't believe in idolatry. I question authority. I am a Republican who constantly questions the authority of Donald Trump. You see, here in America, we have total free speech, and the answer to hate speech is more free speech. But in England, you don't have complete free speech, and you know what I'm talking.
I would correct him. We do not, because Gabriela Saldana is in a Florida jail for criticizing Netanyahu. As long as that happens, we do not have free speech in America.
Talking about Piers.
Well, we have issues with free speech, particularly on social media, which I'm very concerned about. I agree with you. You know, we've had some ridiculous cases where people have cracked jokes, inappropriate, tasteless jokes on social media, and then get arrested by 5 armed policemen at Heathrow Airport and charged with crimes.
Yeah, you suck too.
Can I reach my hands across the pond? You keep the king and the queen there. We'll keep Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse here because that's your Disney World. The king and the queen.
Geraldo, I actually like, I was in New York last week, and I actually really like the fact that after a lot of Brit bashing from Trump aimed at Keir Starmer, who's been a pretty useless prime minister, I have to be honest, of my country, following a lot of other useless prime ministers in recent years, that after all the Brit bashing, some of it deserves, some over the top, we finally had a reminder that actually there is a very historic and abiding and genuinely special relationship between our two great countries. What did you feel about it? Was it significant to you at all, or not really?
I thought that the royal family, the royal couple anyway, the king and queen, did a magnificent job.
Slurp, slurp.
The king's speech before the joint chamber of Congress was brilliant. I thought that here he was, in a hostile environment where the relationship between the secular British government and the United States is horrible. Britain and the United States, historic allies, have had this awful divorce, mainly over what's going on in Iran and the Persian Gulf. But the king came, despite the bitter feelings between the British government and the American government, the king came and made a speech that reminded Americans of what our democracy is all about.
Notice how this panel, most of them, some of them will exclude from that, but they worship these elites. I don't worship any fucking king. Why do I care that some king from some foreign land came here and gave us a speech? Fuck him. He's elite. His brother got caught on the Epstein files. If we didn't have so many pictures of it, it would have been brushed under the rug too. And they're not even doing anything there against him for the Epstein stuff. This is about giving secrets to Epstein. This is different. They don't care. They love elites. They love them. And you can see it in the way they talk about them. It's like he's gushing for him.
Reminded Americans that we have elected representatives, that there's a separation between the legislative branch and the executive branch, that there is power in America's founding documents and our government structure, as long as each branch allows the other to do its constitutionally mandated job. It took the King of England. Ironically, they took the king to teach Americans what our democracy was about, what separation of powers is about. And I was enormously impressed by his sincerity. I thought that his speech really resonated with many people who were apolitical. I really believe that he was, in my view, this was the most impressive visit by a royal ever in my certainly in my adult lifetime. I thought Charles was brilliant, and I was never a huge fan of his. Of course, I was Princess Diana and all all that, but to see Charles, kind of a stiff, generally was as he was regarded, come and make such a clever speech, so brilliantly delivered.
Yes, so brilliantly delivered through his Habsburg chin. Yeah, it was wonderful.
Connecting not only with the joint, he gets standing ovation from Republican and Democrat, standing together, an ovation in Congress. Yeah. You would never get that from an American president standing before the American Congress. But there was King Charles, standing ovation, not a seat, no one sitting in the whole room, and he dominated, and then graciously went to Harlem with the kids there. Remembered the 67 Brits who who died on 9/11. I thought that he and Queen Camilla really did a wonderful job, and I'm very glad they came and reminded us.
Someone's ready for the old folks home. Guess who?
Yeah.
That politicians can be effective, and that the monarchy was more than just symbolic.
And only a voice that posh and charming and warm and eloquent could get away with standing next to the American president and crack jokes about burning down the White House and the fact you'd all be speaking French if it wasn't for us, and get away with it. But that was great. And actually, you know what? To return the favour, I thought Donald Trump was on his very best behaviour throughout that trip. He obviously loves the royals. I had a text exchange with him. He was ecstatic about how it all went. You know,
it is nice whenever you have a president who doesn't shit his pants in front of a royal. That's always good. Yeah, it's good we got to there. I think we should expect more, though.
You and I did The Apprentice. We've got to finish, but I just want to end with this, Geraldo. We both did The Apprentice. When you do The Apprentice, I sat opposite Donald Trump. This is back in 2007-8. I sat opposite him in that boardroom for 3 hours every night and watched him in action. He was often so charming, so empathetic, so funny, all the things we see
that it gave Piers a boner
when he's at his best, like with the royal visit. And it just makes me scratch my head about why he's so reluctant to show that side of himself more, and why he likes to be so over-the-top aggressive and bombastic all the time, and do things like, honestly, like when he talks about, annihilating everyone in Iran, or he trashes Rob Reiner the day after he's murdered, or wherever it may be. It's like, there's another guy lurking inside Donald Trump, which I wish he would show people more of, because I think then he would be less of a demon figure to everybody. And it's just a pity, because when you see him like he was with the royals, it was...
So ignore all the bad shit he did, because Piers saw him being really cool in a fucking photo shoot or a film shoot or whatever. That's the fucking logic here, that it doesn't matter all the crazy shit he says because you saw him be a nice guy one time in front of a bunch of people. Oh, he must be awesome.
Great. Everybody wins, right? Everyone enjoyed that. That state dinner was fantastic. Anyway, that's for another time. Thank you all to my panel. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
All right.